ladies and gentlemen. This will be another Justin and Max review of Provincia Romana.
Provincia Romana is as you can tell from the title, it's a Roman-era game. And all players, it plays up to 6, it's 2 to 6. And all players get these cool little mats.
They're actually pretty nice.
Yeah, they're nice. They're thin, but they're nice. Mm-hmm. And they have these pictures in them, and that's not so relevant. And then you have a place where you're going to store all your goods. And you have a morale track and then sort of a defensive track. And the premise of the game is that the starting player is going to choose a deck of cards. That's and then there's basically 3 decks that you could choose from.
You could choose from the building deck,
which is this one.
The action deck,
which is called SPQR for the Senate.
Mm-hmm. And the resource deck,
which is called the OPES, I guess, OPES.
But just resource, action, and building is basically.
Yeah, there's nothing new really about the game in a lot of ways. You're taking cards, you're seeing if you can get the right resources for them, and then you build the card. And then every few rounds, there's like the Gaul, G-A-U-L, Gaul enemies attack, and you see if you have enough defense. If not, you lose something. And if you do, you don't gain anything. You just don't get attacked.
Which I feel like would be an interesting concept. If you defeat the battle,
you get something. Yeah, a lot of the game is you're trying to mitigate the possibility of getting attacked, and then you don't get anything for it. The resources are your usual clay and stone and wood and so forth. The most interesting aspect of the game is that when a player chooses a deck of cards that's going to be for everybody, you take out 6 cards, and 4 of them are face up.
2 of them are face down.
2 of them are face down, and that's really cool.
Because you could be like, do I want that one, or do I want to push my luck and maybe just get like a terrible dollar, or you might get a really good one that's like 2 of each resource or whatever.
It's a little bit of a gamble, and depending on what kind of resources you get or how much money you have, will be what kind of cards, what kind of buildings you can build. Mm-hmm. And some of the buildings and there's this whole order to the game where you build the buildings, you pay some taxes, you lose some morale, and then you can gain a little bit of income if your buildings give you income. And then you could do this thing where you flip a card, you lose a couple of points, or you lose a point, and you gain some kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And then you repeat it. And then you repeat it, and then you repeat it.
And then you repeat it, and then you repeat it. And it's too long.
I'm going to start off with my negatives of the game, and then I'll go with the positives of the game. Go with the issue with the length.
So, the game takes place in 6 rounds, which you feel like would be kind of short, but it's actually not, because every turn, every player gets something.
Right.
So, in the last round, or maybe even a little bit of round 5, it is nothing's happening.
Yeah, you feel like the game is over.
It's like, why are we still doing this? Nothing happened.
I tried to look. I looked in the instructions, and it just said, and the game ends after 6 rounds. To me, it could be 4 rounds. It could be 5 rounds, and it would still feel the same. Because,
during the 6th round, collectively, all 5 of us may have gotten 4 points.
Yeah, it was a real... You were just worried about the battles.
It was what?
If I would have a house rule that 5 rounds felt okay.
And then we could do 1, 2, 4, 5.
For where the battles are, and then you just skip. Or 2, 3, and then 5.
2, 3, 5.
2, 3, 5 would be where the battles were.
Where it is just completely taking out.
Just 6. Taking out round 6. I think that would improve the game. The art on the cards
is nice.
It's okay, yeah.
But all of the art looks identical.
You can't tell. They all... I mean, there's a building, and there's no people on any of these things. It's just these empty streets, empty waterfall.
Empty buildings.
And sometimes, like this one, the cards that you have to flip upside down, they have 2 pictures of basically the same thing, and it doesn't make you connect it all to what it is. I mean, I see it says a villa, and I see that there's a house and so forth.
It should just say village.
That's the other thing. I know, I love games that are historical.
And just have the actual, English name or whatever.
They go overboard sometimes. And then just this game goes overboard.
In smaller letters, what it actually is.
Yes, exactly. They have this whole list of cards, and you don't really connect with what they are because you can't even read what the word is. Exercitatio. This is Latin, and...
what's the insula?
Yeah, and then you don't really get the idea that you're building something. You just look for, well, how much do I cost? How much does it cost, and what do I get from it? You don't get the sense of like, oh, now I have a villa in my town. Now I have like this state house or something like this. So I find that's excruciating to me when they do this. And I love languages, and I love other cultures, and I love learning about these things. Put the large word in English, and then the small word, so we get a little historical sense. Otherwise, it kind of kills it for me a little bit. Like, we almost joked about some of the names, like Fodina, and we don't know what these things are. The one thing I was going to mention was that on these, for whatever reason, 3 people can't get one card, and 3 people can't get another card.
The 3 people that have the bridge card can't get the lighthouse card, and the 3 people that have the lighthouse card board can't get the bridge card.
And I'm like why? I know they wanted to get this thing of alignment between players, perhaps,
but it's like
it was just an extra rule.
Because like a couple of times, someone's like, "I'm gonna take a random building, can't have that."
Right, can't have that one.
It's just a waste of turn.
And there are some of the symbology is weird too. Like they have this infinity sign, which means that you could have more of the same card. Why an infinity sign? I guess infinite amount of the same buildings.
But there's only like 4 in the whole deck, and you're only going to get like 1 or 2.
And
maybe.
the difference between the SPQR cards, the red cards, the action cards that you use and you discard, and the building cards which you buy and try to build, unless you're looking at the back, you don't know which one is which. You have to look at the details, like, oh, the eagle is bigger and it doesn't give you points, and that's a real...
Oh, that's a red one? Oh!
And there are games where there's like 1 or 2 little exceptions. This game, there's a lot of cards which you have to think about what the exception to the rule is. This one can be played here. This one stays in. This one goes out. Yeah. But I want to talk about some of the good things in the game.
Yes, there's also a lot of things.
One of the good things, and I'll show a picture of this subsequently.
The board.
The board is nice, yeah. I meant the discs, the ones for the battles.
Yes.
So in the battles, you get you basically get a random assortment of everyone's...
Including yourself.
Including yourself.
And then you get to play one face up, either adding one or subtracting one from yourself or players, so you could form alliances. Yeah, or try to form an alliance but not be able to because all you have is minuses.
Now, the rules didn't make sense to me, so I played it a little bit differently. The rules say that when you're... During the battles, you play a disc from your hand, and it could be... You don't know whose is who. And then they said just mix them up and then show what the result is. To me, that doesn't really... How do you make alliances if you don't know who was on your side and who wasn't? So what we did in our game was when we were showing the discs, we went around the table and we said, I'm helping you out. I'm helping you out. Or, you know what? I'm not helping you out. Sorry, nothing I could do. And that was an interesting part of the game as well. If I played it... So the game didn't scale well for me from 2 to 6 players or 2 to 5 that we played. If I played it at 2 players again, every time you're having the cards out, you're supposed to draw 6.
But there's so many.
There's so many. That's an interesting aspect of the game, though.
They don't change the rule for how many cards are revealed for player count.
Right. So if
like
there was...
in 2 players, you'll get like all of the choices, and in 6 players, the last person will get a choice.
Yes, and I like the idea that this diminishing return, that as you go around the table and people are taking cards,
and like
you're like, oh, I hope they don't take that one. I hope they don't take that one because I'm now left with this one.
Like in a 2-player game, it should be 3 cards.
Yeah, 3 cards or 4 cards tops.
4 cards.
Yeah.
5-player game, 6 cards.
The rule book was ambivalent at best. A lot of things that you're not sure what they mean. One of the things in the rule book that didn't make too much sense is that if you lose a battle, you lose 2 points physically on the board,
and
you take a -2 card.
Yes.
And I'm like, well, then did you lose 4 points? And then at the end of the game, in the rules, it didn't say what happens with those cards. So why would you get doubly penalized?
Was it just a dunce hat saying you lost?
Yeah, I guess it's just sort of like a reminder that you didn't do well.
You failed.
You failed. What were some those? But the positives, for me, they're about even. I enjoyed it. It's like there's a good game in the box, but I feel that there needs to be some house rules to make it functional. And I could even see if I wanted to play it more, I would try to increase some of these little tweaks and home rules just to make it more fun.
And then, why is just like a rhetorical question is, why is like the building deck so large?
The building deck is enormous.
And the other 2 decks so small. Like, we went through the action and the resource deck twice each.
There are so many buildings
And
you can
we
choose
went
from.
through like a fourth, maybe.
I know, and they even have you take out a whole bunch of cards from the building deck to even start the game with. So we didn't even use all of them. And it's this enormous deck.
And it was like
the other ones are a little bit, and we cycled through them. I thought that there's a lot of variety, almost a touch too much variety in the buildings. And because the names aren't easily recognizable,
you're like, what is that?
You got to look in the book.
And then you just look at the stats.
But in terms of the, I think another fascinating part of the game is the order of play. The fact that you draft the cards, you build, then you have to either get attacked or you pay taxes, and then you get income, and then you could use your actions. Your actions come basically last.
So you're like, hey, I got this cool action. Oh wait, can't use it this round.
I could use it this round, but I got to use it basically at the end of the round.
But you have to use it to do stuff in the next round. You can't do anything with it that round. You're like get +1 attack. Well, I'm about to die. Can I use it? No.
No, you can't use it. That's right. So the order can be a little bit frustrating when you know you have some ability, but you just can't use it right then a little bit.
Because like for me, without the house rules that we've talked about, I would rate it a 6. But if we were to play it again with the house rules, I'd probably rate it a 7.5 to 8.
Yeah. You know what? Yeah, the first time I played it with Mom, at the 2-player level, I was like, "This is a 5. This is not that good." I was like, "I don't even want." And then we played it today again, and
6, maybe
6.5.
And then
I liked it a lot better with more
How
players.
do you think you'd feel it with those?
If it was a little bit briefer and maybe the card level, maybe in, for
even we can go through the deck and take out some cards.
If it's 6 players and 6 cards, then maybe 5 players, 5 cards, 4 players, 4 cards,
just
and then
with those rules, that would make the game so much better.
It would make it better because then you really do have agonizing choices to make, which is what gaming should be, agonizing choices. I'm just going to rate it on what's in the box.
Just what's in the box?
At the box, I'm at a 6.
I'm also at a 6. So
I think 6 is reasonable, and then house rule it up, and maybe it gets up to a 7 if we play it again, and then it works.
I'd give it maybe 7.5, so 7.25 with the house rules.
But 6 on what's in the box.
So what's in the box? 6 is the rating of Provincia Romana.
Romana!